Game preview, the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos at NRG Stadium Sunday at noon. And before we go anywhere, Janice McNair goes into the Ring of Honor.
Man.
That is awesome. And a record amount of legends, former Texans players in the house. That's going to create quite the atmosphere.
It definitely should. I mean, this is an event. There are only 3 individuals up in the Ring of Honor. And I think one of them up there was, missing his partner up there. And so I'm so glad that Janice will join Bob up in the Ring of Honor along with JJ and Andre. I mean, that's going to be just a heck of an afternoon. But like you said, all the legends coming back. I mean, I've heard over 100. I mean, that is just really, really cool. It's just so neat to see some of these guys that, we hadn't seen in a few years, the Joel Dreesens of the world and others. I mean, it's just really, really cool. Now for Dreesen, if he comes back, it might be a little different, having spent some years with the Broncos and then with the Texans.
Oh, forget about that.
You're Texans on Sunday,
you're
baby.
You're Texans Sunday. Cushing is the Rep at H-Town guy. That's going to be awesome. And for what it's worth, there have been 4 of these ceremonies, if you include the Andre Johnson Hall of Fame ring ceremony last year. Yeah. Texans undefeated on these days where you have the big halftime ceremony. So for what it's worth, Broncos in town, Johnny, and this is a very good football team, 6-2. I talked to Dave Logan, voice of the Broncos. He's done games for them since 1990. This might be a Super Bowl-worthy team when it's all said and done because they're playing so well on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they're complete. I mean, this is a complete team. It's not as if you're playing, oh, man, the defense is really good, but the offense is, struggling, or both units are struggling. I mean, all 3 units are really good. I mean, their special teams are really good as well. Darren Rizzi is a tremendous special teams coach. So from that standpoint, you're facing a team that has got explosive abilities. They've got the opportunity to run the ball. They're 3rd in the league in rushing. Defensively, they lead the league in sacks. They have the 2024 Defensive Player of the Year, which ends up being key because we don't know whether Patrick Surtain is going to end up playing in this game. And that ends up being a big, big deal because watching against the Cowboys in particular, what they did in the secondary drives what they want to do up front. And what they do in the secondary, they can change and flip and put Surtain on any one of your best receivers, and then they go double the other one. And they really kind of shut you down. It's kind of a Patriots philosophy from years back. I know that they used to use that against DeAndre Hopkins and company. So there's a lot that they can do, but if Surtain doesn't play, that ends up being a major key. However, even if he is out, that is still a dynamic defense. Even with him out, Kris Abrams-Draine steps in, a very, very good football player. Played in Missouri a couple years ago. I thought he'd be a nickel, but he can run, he can move, and he's competitive as all get out. So it's going to be a tough test for anybody on the Texans offense.
3 things to look out for. You mentioned they're 3rd in the league in rushing. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. This is key. Texans got after Christian McCaffrey last week. They got after Derrick Henry a couple of games ago. They have to get after Dobbins and friends. I feel like if you stop Dobbins, you stop them. But I know they have other players that can hurt you. But if you put Bo Nix in 3rd and long, this defense can get after them. I know that they're last in the league or 1st in the league in giving up the fewest sacks, however you want to look at that number. Yeah. And in addition to having the most sacks, so that's crazy stuff right there. You have to go after Bo Nix. You do that by stopping the run first.
There's no doubt. And I know we'll get to our sleepers of the game, and that's really where it starts. R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins have been tremendous, and this is a really solid physical offensive line. Quinn Miners, I think, is one of the best guards in the league. Garrett Bowles went from being kind of the scourge of Denver. He's always got a penalty and everybody, crying about that, to all of a sudden turning into one of the best left tackles in the game. The transformation that he has made. McGlinchey's very good on the right side. It's a solid offensive line that wants to beat you up a little bit. And our guys are, going to have to be ready for the fight. But Bo Nix throws the ball on the run as well as possible. So it's one of those games where, Lamar Jackson, you'd like for him to have to throw from the well. You'd like Bo Nix to have to throw from the well as well, because when he gets on the edge, he can hurt you when he runs, but he can hurt you when he gets out of the pocket and throws on the run. That is where he's really dangerous.
Okay, so another thing to watch out for, and I'm going to phrase it like a question. How How do you stop them from getting into your backfield with all the different guys they can throw at you? Benito has 8 sacks. Everybody knows about him, but the sacks come from all over the place with Denver. That means that they're really good at pressuring the quarterback, obviously. You got to figure out a way to keep them off of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, I think communication's big. Communication up front, where they get you is they'll show you different, overload one way, then those guys drop, some other guys come. It's not quite the Ravens, where the Ravens will do that a lot, or the Seahawks, where they'll use a lot of overload pressures to one side and then drop all those guys and then bring everybody. It's not quite like that, but they do like to run some sim pressures. Those show 6 or 7 at the line of scrimmage, and then 3 guys drop. Okay, well, have you made a plan for the 4 guys that rush? That you have to be cognizant of. Also, you got to run the ball. If you run the ball and you get to 2nd and 6, now all of a sudden Vance Joseph is over there going, they could run it again. Okay, let's stay base because I'm not sure. All right, now the Texans have things the way they want. You get stuffed on first down at 2nd and 11, all of a sudden you're playing right into their hands. And what's been really successful for the Texans lately is when they get to 3rd down, it's 3rd and 4. It's 3rd and 2. They've been very successful getting to 3rd, especially in the game last week. They got to 3rd and relatively manageable almost all game. And they were, I think, 60% on 3rd down. And that's going to be key. The more you can get, if you do get to 3rd down, and 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, the less Vance Joseph can kind of dive into his bag of tricks, if you will. And that's, as defensive coordinator, play caller for the Broncos, that's the one thing he wants to be able to do. Shut down the run. If it's 2nd and 9, it's 3rd and 10. I'm bringing the dogs now, and now you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to get away from, and you have to avoid.
I think you're with me. You're going to need a big play in the kicking game to win this game. You're going to need a big stop. Now, they got that punt last week, stopped inside the 5. Very nice. But you're going to need to do that on some kickoffs. You can't be giving them the 35, 40-yard line the whole time. Can't be giving them the short fields. Right. Have to find a way to be better in the kick coverage department like they're fully capable of under Frank Ross.
Marvin Mims is as good as it gets as a returner. He is dynamic. He had a return against the Cowboys where the Cowboys looked like one guy kind of was holding on to one of his ankles. He scored it out of it, and the Cowboys' pursuit didn't pursue properly. They over-pursued, so he broke out of that tackle, picked up another 20, 25 yards down the right sideline. All of a sudden, they got the ball at the 42. And you just can't do that against Mims, and he's a heck of a punt returner. So you're right. I think the biggest thing on special teams, yes, you'd love to be able to create a Jaylin Noel return of some sort, or a Berrios return of some sort, or block a punt or something along those lines. But what you can't do is on kickoffs and punts, let them break a kickoff return for 35, 40 yards, a punt return that goes for 20 yards. You've got to keep the returns at a minimum, and that gets that much more difficult against a guy like Mims.
Okay, Mattress Firm, sleeper of the game. Mattress Firm, the official sleep partner of the Houston Texans. Who do you have?
Well, we talked about stopping the run, and one of the things that stood out when we talked to D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio this week was the fact that they talked about Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. setting the edge in the run game, which is great, but they're not my sleeper. My sleeper ends up being Sheldon Rankins as the leader of the defensive tackle crew, because think back to the Tampa Bay game. In that game, Tampa Bay ran for 160 some odd yards. Now, Baker accounted for 30 of that regardless. They ran the ball well, and the Buccaneers had a really good scheme, but our defensive tackles did not get off of blocks. Sheldon is very, very, very difficult to block when he is dialed in. And he's going against a couple of good guards. So they're going to have to be violent up front, but they're going to have to be violent as they penetrate and create chaos. These are 2 good running backs. You're going to have to really tackle well and bring them to the ground, put that on the linebackers, but the defensive tackles have to make the blocks difficult up front so that the linebackers and safeties can fill in their right responsibility. So my sleeper of the game is going to end up being Sheldon Rankins as the leader of the defensive tackle crew.
All right, the week began with Nico and Christian Kirk getting healthier. Good to see them at practice, but I still say the Cyclone rookies will be heard from.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick both of them.
Okay.
And look, I'd love to see X make a lot of plays, but my sleeper, either Higgins and or Jaylin Noel, making big plays in this game because they can't cover everybody, especially if CJ does get in those third and medium shorts or second and medium short. That would be awesome. Give you some play action opportunities. Make them pay. Texans, Broncos, Sunday at noon. Let's rock. Go Texans.